Hello everyone, it's Nina and welcome back to my channel. Today is a very exciting video because we are going to be starting off a reading vlog on starting the series Heaven Official's Blessing by Moxiang Tongshu, or MXTX. At the time of this recording, this is MXTX's most recent completed series. To give a really quick summary, it follows our main character. I believe his name is pronounced Xie Lian, and Xie Lian was a beloved prince of this very powerful kingdom, and through cultivation he ascended to godhood. But through some of his actions where he believed he was doing the right thing, once he was a god, he ended up causing the downfall of his kingdom, and since then has been thought of as more of a god of misfortune, very much like an outsider amongst the other heavenly officials. For the main plot of the book, it is 800 years since he has first ascended to godhood, and when he goes to the heavenly realm, he's very much ostracized when he first gets there, and as a way to kind of build up his renown and his relationship with the other heavenly officials, he is then tasked to work in the human realm to stop any kind of rogue ghosts or spirits that are causing trouble there. And I think throughout the majority of the series, he's going to get paired on different missions with other heavenly officials to kind of build up his relationship with them and his overall reputation in the heavenly realm. This is a Chinese danmei or boys love series. So obviously Xie Lian has a love interest who I think is technically a spoiler for this first book. But if you've seen literally any fan art from the series, you know what he looks like and who he is. So I won't talk about him too much right now. As I usually do with the majority of my reading vlogs, I will now give a quick summary of my experience with this series. So this is, again, like I said, the third of MXTX's series that is now finished. And with the English releases that have come out with her series, I have read her other two series, which is the Scumvillain Self-Saving System and the Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation. I read them in order also of publication. So I read all of Scumvillain Self-Saving System, and while I did like it, it definitely isn't my favorite, and I've actually sold off some of the volumes that I wasn't super attached to. However, I absolutely loved Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation. The main character, Wei Wuxian, is one of my favorite characters of all time. I love him so much. I really love his character arc and the kind of villain persona that he has to reckon with for his past timeline. I think for a lot of people, MXTX's works are kind of their introduction to danmei, and that was the same for me. Since then, I've only ever read one other danmei series, which is Husky and His White Cat Shizun, which I'm still in the process of reading. And I knew I would eventually get around to reading Heaven Official's Blessing. And when I saw that they were going to start releasing these new special editions for this series in particular, I was like, okay, this is definitely a sign for me to go ahead and start buying them and reading through this series. So I did go ahead and buy the first volume. I'm really excited to read through this. I don't know overall for this reading vlog how many volumes we're going to get through. There's a total of 8, and I don't know if that's really 7.5 and then there's some bonus short stories, or if it's a full 8 volumes of the main plot. But so far I only own the first volume in the series, so we're going to go ahead and jump into this one. So yeah, I'm gonna get started in reading this, and I will come back to you guys for my first update. So I thought we could do our first update in reading Heaven Official's Blessing. I am around a third of the way through this book, and I've mostly been reading it physically. I did listen to a tiny bit of one of the fan audiobooks that has come out, but I think I'm gonna probably transition to just reading it physically. Not because I think the fan audio is bad, just because I find it a little bit faster to get through and process the story actually if I'm reading it over listening to it. I have to say, first starting off with this book, I was pretty confused in terms of what was happening. I do think that might also be, personally, I haven't read a wuxia or a shanxia in a long time. I kind of forgot a lot of the lore elements related to cultivation, the celestial realm, and the demonic realm, and kind of everything related to the setup of the main character. Basically, it follows our main character, Xie Lian, I hope I'm saying his name right, who used to be the crown prince of this kingdom 800 years ago. He practiced his cultivation and ended up ascending into godhood. In his first time around being a god, he ended up kind of interfering with the human world, trying to save his kingdom from ruin, which just ended up making things way worse for them, and the kingdom ended up falling. So he was cast out of the immortal realm and turned into a human again. He then ascended for a second time into godhood, but immediately was kicked back down because he went on a huge rampage, yelling and fighting the other gods. And he was forced again to be in the human realm as a human, but he ended up defying the odds a third time, cultivated and ascended to godhood. And in this third lifetime, it seems like he's a lot more mellowed out, a lot more humble and soft-spoken. And basically to kind of have the celestial realm accept him and not immediately want to send him back down to live another lifetime as a human, he has to pay back this large debt of merit, which is basically this celestial world currency that is accrued by humans praying and worshiping the gods in the human world. Another kind of like way to fast track getting more merit is if Jielan does some like kind of like odd jobs for the different celestials, like taking care of like rogue vengeful spirits and demons that are plaguing the humans. So that's kind of the general setup for this book. At the point I'm at, we've kind of dealt with the first case that Jielan has gone on, which was to stop this like vengeful ghost groom that was kidnapping and killing all the brides of this one small town. And I think there's going to be quite a few more kind of like villain of the day storylines as we make our way through this series. Also, in that first mission, there was this kind of like mysterious, incredibly powerful other dude who Jielan only like kind of saw a glimpse of, but the two kind of like junior celestial beings he was working with were pretty concerned by this really powerful being hanging around. And I know from like just general things I know about the series, the very minimal things I know about the series, that is going to be the eventual love interest of Jielan. I don't know if it's necessarily good or bad that I know that spoiler. I do think it kind of made the scene more fun because I was like, ooh, this is their first time meeting each other, versus like me being a bit confused and not knowing if this character is going to be like relevant to the overarching story or like what their place in the story is going to be. I feel like it can be a little bit hard in reading Danmei, especially long series Danmei, to know like which characters are going to be like super relevant and important to the story overall versus which are just kind of like characters that we're going to meet for one particular mission and then kind of fade into the background. But I feel like once I kind of accepted, I just want to like follow the story, kind of see where everything's going. There's a lot of like action and like intense scenes that are happening. Some pretty like grotesque like horror scenes also for this first mission. Once I was just kind of like letting myself get immersed and feel like the flow of the story, I definitely enjoyed it a lot more versus like trying to remember everyone's name and like what their all relationship to each other was in the very beginning part of the book. So I'm really excited to see where the rest of this book is going, since I feel like I've now kind of like gotten into the groove of the overall plot. And yeah, I'm really, really excited to read more of this. I think based on the level of how much I am enjoying this, I probably will go ahead and eventually buy the special edition of the second and third volume so I can kind of like keep the party going and continue reading more of this. Especially because this book, even though it is like a special edition, it's not like super huge and heavy. It's the perfect size to hold and read from. And I think it is insanely beautiful. They did a really, really good job with the special editions of these. So I definitely want to go ahead and collect some of the other ones, because some of the other covers that have come out for the new special editions are really, really good. Anyway, that is my thoughts in reading this so far. I'm probably going to read a little bit more of this in the next couple days, and I will come back to you guys with my next update. Hello, so I have a reading update. I have now finished the first book in Heaven Official's Blessing. I actually really, really liked this. I found it very fun, and the plot was pretty easy to like fall back into every time I picked it up to read. Like I said in the intro, I wasn't really sure about like who I would need to remember, but it seems like the characters of Fu Yao and Nanfang are going to be relatively reoccurring characters. So I'm definitely going to try and like remember them and like their backstories more for future books. I also feel like in reading this and sort of seeing the character beats that are being laid down for Jielan, I am getting a little brainwormy about him. Like, I'm getting the trauma, the vibes, the like pain that he has suffered through as a character that always believes in doing the right thing and wanting to fight for the underdog, but sometimes that also leading to their downfall. It's a very like Superman 2025 personality trait of always wanting to do good and try to end suffering, but also a like level of hubris that can come from thinking that you have the power to know what is best and reshape the world according to your image. I really like all of those elements and hope that they get expanded on in the other books in the series. Plus, also the element that the Heaven Officials kind of see the lives of humans as completely removed from them. Almost like how a human sees an ant is an analogy they use in this book. All of those things are really interesting, and I'm really hoping that they expand on them in future books in the series. I'm also very interested in figuring out more about Hua Cheng and what is the reason for his interest in Xie Lian. So yes, very, very happy with this book. Probably going to give it around 4 stars. I was a little bit hesitant in the very beginning, but I feel like it really picked up in the story, like once I got kind of more used to the setting and the characters and everything. So yeah, really, really enjoyed this one. And since I did enjoy this book, I went ahead and decided to get the second book in the series. So as you saw, the only book that I ended up picking up in my last trip was the second special edition of Heaven Official's Blessing. This cover design I think is really beautiful. I like the like almost monochromatic look with all the reds and pinks. And this one, as opposed to the previous one that had a lot of like gold detailing, this one has a lot of silver on it. We have the red book with the silver embossing on it. These books actually like all match up, so the sprayed edges make a like cohesive picture. So holding it up like this, these two kind of connect. You can see how his hand connects onto the second volume. And then the art that is on the end paper is this really beautiful illustration of Hua Cheng, which is the same on the front and back. They only had one copy at Barnes, and it is like a little bit scuffed up at the top here. Not super big of a deal. Just kind of annoying because this was the only one that they had to choose from. So if I wanted to buy the book, I pretty much had to get one that was a little damaged. But I am very glad that I now have this. I think I'm going to probably start reading it in the next couple days. So I probably will come back to you then when I have my first update. Okay, so I think it's been like a week or so since I've last talked to you guys, and I have made some progress in reading the second volume of Heaven Official's Blessing. I'm currently in the middle of a chapter, and I'm at page 109. So far, the setup for this particular storyline is that Xie Lian has been tasked by the Heavenly Emperor of the Heavenly Realm, Jun Wu, to go down to Earth to try and figure out what happened to some heavenly officials that sent out a distress signal, which happened to be nearby the realm of the Ghost City, which is an area that Hua Cheng is in charge of. It seems like there might be some indications that Hua Cheng is responsible for whatever happened to these heavenly officials, but we haven't really gotten any confirmation of that. More so just the Emperor telling Xie Lian that he doesn't want to put him in an awkward spot if he has to fight against someone who he was starting to call a friend. So far, not too much has happened. Xie Lian has gone to the Ghost City. He also has like 2 other heavenly officials working with him, but he did end up meeting up with Hua Cheng again. At the end of the previous book, Hua Cheng said that the next time he and Xie Lian met, he would show him his like true form. So there kind of was a little bit of like mystery and lead up to Hua Cheng's form being revealed, since when they end up running into each other again, Hua Cheng is like sitting on the other side of this like barrier. I really, really like that scene and kind of all of the moments that we've had so far where Hua Cheng is serving his role as the head of the Ghost City, seeing the way that all the other ghosts and demons like really respect him and are like amazed by him. I think it's really, really fun. And of course, all of the like small moments that we've gotten of Hua Cheng and Xie Lian like interacting. Like I said before, I am pretty early on and there hasn't been too much action, but I'm really intrigued to know more. I'm excited to see like just more of their interactions and watch them like develop more as a couple. But I do really feel like already, even honestly from some of the elements in the first book, you can see how much Hua Cheng is devoted to Xie Lian, but Xie Lian like doesn't really know the reason for that, or if Hua Cheng has like some type of like nefarious hidden motive for why they've started to become closer with each other. So yes, very excited to read more of this, and probably in the next couple days I'll come back with my next update. So I actually don't really remember the last time I gave you an update in reading Heaven Official's Blessing, but I have made some more progress in reading the second volume. I'm a little under halfway. I'm about to start chapter 20, which is page 187. I feel like the most important thing that has happened recently is that Xie Lian was accused of being this evil state preceptor who had killed the entire royal family of Yong'an, except for the crown prince Taihua, who has now like ascended and is a god in the heavenly realm alongside Xie Lian. Taihua didn't initially recognize Xie Lian as this person, but after seeing Xie Lian block an attack between Taihua and Hua Cheng in a previous chapter, Taihua is now like sure that Xie Lian in one of his past lives had been posing as a state preceptor, and because Yong'an is the kingdom that came after Xie Lian's was destroyed, he thinks that Xie Lian like infiltrated the Yong'an royal family with the intent of revenge, and now he wants to have a like one-on-one duel against Xie Lian. And Xie Lian has not tried to like combat these rumors at all. He basically admitted to it. However, it seems like from some of Junwoo's actions, he doesn't fully believe him, and he's just like basically putting him on house arrest until they can like fully sort out the situation. My personal theory is that maybe Xie Lian did kill the royal family, but it was probably for Taihua's benefit. Like when Taihua went into the royal chamber and saw Xie Lian killing his father, it might be that the father was like trying to do something pretty evil or was going to hurt Taihua in some way, so Xie Lian was trying to like defend him. Or there is like another culprit that was behind the entire massacre, and Xie Lian is like somehow vouching for them. Anyway, the point we left off on, Xie Lian is on house arrest in this palace in the heavenly realm, but we just saw this like big black void show up outside of his like front door and a bunch of silver butterflies fly in. So obviously Hua Cheng is planning to like break him out of house arrest and I guess take him back to the ghost city. They kind of left on a little bit of an awkward term. Xie Lian, to help like the other heavenly officials that he was with, kind of just like let this big fight happen and then accidentally ended up burning down a large portion of Hua Cheng's palace. So I'm assuming there's going to be a little bit of Xie Lian like apologizing and saying like that wasn't his intention, and I'm assuming Hua Cheng is going to pretty much accept that. However, I feel like by having Hua Cheng break him out, it's going to make Xie Lian look more guilty for whatever actions he did. I feel like he's already in somewhat hot water of being associated with Hua Cheng and trusting him when pretty much all the other heavenly officials see him as a very big threat to the heavenly realm. So I feel like Hua Cheng breaking him out and them like hanging out together more, especially when Xie Lian is in like a really precarious situation, is just going to make things even worse for him like pleading his case that he's not a bad person. So yeah, that is how far I am right now. I honestly haven't had a ton of time to read in the last week. I think I only read on Monday and it's Saturday now. I do hope in the next couple days I can get back into my rhythm of reading before bed and reading more of this. I do also want to say I am listening to one of the fan audiobooks in addition to reading it physically. Sometimes when I'm like doing stuff around the house or working on my journal, I'll listen to the audiobook, and then before bed I usually read it physically. And I really like the fan audiobook narrator's voice for Hua Cheng. I feel like she does a really nice, like distinct, deeper voice for Hua Cheng that I feel like really has the charisma and like intensity that he's supposed to give off. So yeah, I'm really enjoying the fan audiobook as I've been listening to it as well. Anyway, that is all for my update right now. I probably will come back to you in the next couple days, hopefully when I have finished this book. So I thought I would give you my final update as I have now finished the second volume of Heaven Official's Blessing. I think I'm probably also going to give this book 4 stars. Same rating I gave the first one. There were some parts that I didn't love in this book, but there also were some really great scenes. I overall really did like this. I really like how much we've gotten to see of Xie Lian's thought process and like how he's often trying to do the right thing, but it will then like backfire on him. Very much representative of the saying, try to please everyone and you'll end up pleasing no one. And he often will like choose the thing that causes him personally the greatest pain if he thinks that will result in someone else feeling less pain. Kind of like how he lied about being the one who killed Taihua's like entire family, because in his eyes it was easier for Taihua to hate him alone than to learn that Taihua had been lied to overall. I really liked all the scenes with Chidong. I think he's really interesting. Also, the fan narrator in the audiobook I'm listening to went super all out in doing his voice and trying to make him sound super crazy and unhinged. I also feel like he's a really interesting character because right now he is very antagonistic, but he also has so much history with Shilian, so I'm interested in seeing more of that come out. I also could really see him becoming more of a like domesticated villain over time. Definitely my favorite parts of these books has been all of Hua Chang and Shilian's interactions. I really liked all of the early scenes when they were in Ghost City and Shilian seeing Hua Chang's home, and just like the way that they often will talk and like comfort one another, really like kind of knowing what the other person needs in those moments of desperation. The part that I'm not super in love with, which I think unfortunately is carrying over into the third book, is that the start of this new arc is basically like a flashback to the time period when Shilian was still the crown prince before his ascension, back when he was still like a regular human, and the kind of like bad fortune that befell him and his country. I guess I am a little annoyed because it kind of cut into the present day timeline at a very like big cliffhanger moment. And obviously in the past timeline, Hua Chang doesn't know Shilian, so they're not going to have any interactions then. But I'm willing to give it a shot, obviously. I'm still really enjoying it. And I really do love the past timeline parts of Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation, so hopefully I'll love this one just as much over time. So yes, in finishing the second book, I did go out and I picked up the third special edition, and I have now started reading this one. I'm currently at chapter 32 overall, which is only about like 60 pages into this book. And it seems like this one, in terms of the opening section when we're still in the past timeline, is really going to focus on after Shilian's first ascension, where he's now a god and like beloved across all of his country. We're going to see him like kind of take the actions that are mentioned in the prologue of the entire story that he kind of inadvertently, through trying to help out, dooms his country to an even worse fate. However, this vlog has been going on for very long. I think it's been almost like 2 months since I first started filming, so I'm going to end it off here while I'm still in the process of reading the third volume. I wanted to talk really briefly about like kind of my overall thoughts of my reading so far, and also sort of compare and contrast this series to MXTX's other series. In terms of if I think this is her best series, I can definitely see where she has improved overall as a writer. I do feel like the characters in this series have more depth and all have like really interesting elements to them that makes me very intrigued to learn more. I feel like a good sign of a book is not only when I'm very intrigued and interested in like the main characters, but also all of like the side boys as well. And specifically with this like past timeline, we've started to dive more into the characters of Fengxin and Wuqing, which yeah, I'm definitely very excited to learn more about them. I do think overall Hua Chang is a really fun love interest. He's so like mysterious and suave, and is also giving the like villain who is made soft and good through his love. And with all the moments and like times where Hua Chang is seen as someone very like feared and hated, Shilian is telling him, hey, I have a really bad rap, you don't want to hang out with a loser like me. I can really see what MXTX was cooking with this romance. So yeah, I'm really excited to see more of their romance and their relationship develop over the course of the next couple books. Definitely going to make a lot more progress in reading this series over the next couple months. My progress so far has been reading about like 1 a month, so considering there's 8 of them, give me like half a year and then we'll be able to do like a full wrap up of all of my thoughts for this series. Although I will say one thing, I don't know if this series would be able to overtake my love of Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation. As much as I do feel like I like the characters of Hua Chang and Shilian, there's just some special sauce in Wei Wuxian and my love for him that I don't know if many characters, and probably like any Tanmei series or series in general, could top. He's definitely like one of my favorite characters of all time. So for that reason alone, like Heaven Official's Blessing has pretty big shoes to fill to get me to like it more than Grandmaster Demonic Cultivation. Anyway, that is going to be it for this reading vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed following me along in this journey as I start reading MXTX's longest and most recent series. If you guys have read the series or any of the other MXTX series, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section down below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, consider liking, commenting, or subscribing if you aren't already. But that is going to be it for me today. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!